pledge allegiance to your right. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
I just want to thank Deb and their staff for a wonderful open house that we did here for the grand opening of the boardroom. And again, if anybody has any other things that they want to take a tour, I'm sure we could find someone that'll take them through the rest of the courthouse. So again, thank you, and I would ask for approval of the board minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second. Any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Tab, is there any additions or deletions? We have none. I need a motion and a second.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A motion, I need a second.
Second.
Motion and second, any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Brad, and do we have a guest, Brad?
I do. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
Morning, Brad.
State your names for the record, please.
Good morning, Brad Vold, Director of Public Health and Social Services.
Cindy Bajan, Financial Assistant Supervisor.
And it's much nicer looking at you gentlemen and ladies this way versus from the side, so it's nice to be in the new boardroom. Not to mention I have to drive across town, so. So with that, I have a report today on medical assistance for the long-term care elderly and disabled. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Bajan, the Supervisor of the Long-Term Care Unit.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning, Cindy.
The first page, you can see that it's applications taken per month, and this is just in the long-term care unit, and that they averaged around 35 per month. Moving to the next slide right away is the active cases currently in the long-term care unit are 909. These cases consist of general assistance, group residential housing, MSA, SNAP, and then, of course, all the medical, nursing home, and the facilities, I'm sorry, for GRH, for group residential housing. You can see there's been a steady increase from 16 to 19. And when we get to the end of the report, I have those numbers for you again on the baby boomers and what they're going to do to us. Telephone calls received
Jeff, she's talking about you.
I think she's talking about you too.
Sadly, I'm including myself
You
in that
are.
as well.
I was just going to say, I don't think she's talking about me.
Between the three separate units within the financial assistance unit, we average over 1,000 phone calls per month. It's actually over 1,100 calls per month. Showed the programs active within medical assistance currently. You can see that the group residential housing for Morrison County, we have 198 people. Those are people that we actually pay for. There are others that are in some of our facilities like newest home and such, but they may be paid for by other counties. They've been placed there. So the numbers are higher than that, but this is what the county pays for.
When she says group residential housing, that's really a place where a person lives and eats as a group. So it basically pays for eats and sheets is what we call it. And so they can't live on their own, can't make their own meals, whatever the case might be. And so we call that group residential housing. So we have newest homes, some of Horizon Health has some homes, group residential homes. Brats. So, okay.
Along with that, if they're living in group residential housing, they aren't eligible then for SNAP or MSA benefits. What they do get with the group residential housing is the $102 special income maintenance need for the month. That they need to use, for their personal items such as shampoo and so on and so forth. But all their other needs are supposed to be met by the facility they're living in. Then I just gave you some of the facility standards. There's the personal needs allowance I just spoke of. Group residential housing, what we currently pay per month per client is $904. For MSA, the grant that they get is, if they're living in the community, is $81 per month. But along with that, they can get the MSA Housing Assistance Standard, which could be another $192. To qualify for that, they have to be using at least 40% of their income towards their basic needs. And if they are, then they're allowed that extra $192. There's also special need allowance for some special diets. There's 11 different diets. A couple of them are low cholesterol, pregnancy diet, a gluten-free, and they can have a added benefit between $28.80 up to $240. The SNAP assistance standard, you can see, is different for the elderly. That's $304 more than just the under 65 adult. And then the last couple of pages, I have what the long-term care spending is actually for Morrison County. You can see the numbers, I won't go over them, but I will state that the average cost per month in long-term care in a private home is $8,086, and in a semi-private room, it's $7,361. We've had a 18% increase in the last 6 years of people living in nursing homes. And the
Excuse
baby.
me, Cindy,
Yes.
Can you explain that again? The long-term care, when you said if somebody's at their home, it costs $7,000 or $8,000, or is that?
No, did
Okay.
I say home? I meant private room versus a
Okay,
semi-private
all right,
room.
okay, all right, that makes sense.
I apologize for
Mr.
that.
Chair, Cindy, are there a lot of semi-private rooms? Aren't most of, when we're talking long-term care, are we not talking about my mother, your mother, everybody's mother, father in a nursing home?
We
Aren't
are.
they mostly all private rooms?
Actually, I
Like
believe
one
they're
person?
mostly the semi-private
Oh, really?
rooms.
Okay, okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes,
All right,
so,
very good.
Again, I'd like to make, this is a big, people don't realize, when we have to help out this long-term care, it's mostly for, and again, you said it, now we got the baby boomers coming up, but it's the elderly, that's the greatest cost for our county, so-
absolutely. Medical overall, and then elderly within the medical.
Right, yep.
But when we're talking about a fee of $9,000 a month or $7,300 a month, whatever it might be, that's simply the room. That's not medications,
Correct.
or any of the other, I don't want to say accessories that they need, physical therapies and such like that, I don't think, or is it?
That is included. If they're living in the facility, those things are included.
Okay.
When they're in their home and we do like community-based waivered services, those are done at home and possibly transported to different facilities, then those are costs above and beyond.
The
Okay,
question I have is if it's private care, meaning I'm paying for myself, or if Medicare or whatever pays for it, is it less expensive for me? I'm gonna pay my own way, or is it more expensive?
If you're paying your own way, sadly, it's more expensive because the state
That's what I
has
know.
worked out a deal with
Right.
facilities. They can only charge a maximum, just like going to the dentist. We pay more than a client's
And
going
I
to
knew that, I
pay.
just wanted to have you explain that. Just, that doesn't make
Sure.
sense, but that's all it is,
so what, excuse me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Cindy, but with these numbers, astronomical numbers that you're giving us, and I'll use me as an example just to use myself, I'm going to go into long-term care. That means that any, or at the very least, the vast majority of anything that I have, financially speaking, I don't have anymore.
Well, that depends. If your spouse is alive, she can reach,
That's spouse, though.
correct. So you get to keep up to $3,000 worth of assets,
Period.
correct.
at $3,000, as we know today, is really not a great deal of anything, but nonetheless, I could have $3,000 worth of assets. So let's pretend that I am on Social Security. Am I gonna be able to keep my $1,000 a month that I'm gonna get from Social Security? Which, by the way, I'm not on Social Security, just using it as an example. But if I was, and I was getting $1,000 a month, as an example, would I be able to also keep that?
No, you would be able to keep $102 per month.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blaine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cindy and Brad, and I just recently had a conversation with an individual about this, where an elderly person from my area went into a long-term care facility at what was told to me about $7,200 a month for a facility within Little Falls. You know, so you do the simple math here, and we're pushing about 90 grand a year for that person to be able to stay there at that facility. My initial thought was, where does the cost, where does that charge come from? And what parameters do we have for the public or for ourselves when we get to that point that cost does not continue to escalate? Is it just is need drive the cost, or lack of facilities, or because I'm going to assume that $7,200 does not mean all of a medication or healthcare needs, that this is just for the place to stay. And so putting this into relative terms, who could afford to have an apartment in Little Falls for $7,200 a month? So I'm wondering where the cost driver is and what control over that cost do we have, if any?
Well, when it comes to healthcare, that is the biggest cost driver for a lot of things that we currently look at. If you recall, I did the cost report either very early this year or the end of last year, and it was about $93 million overall in terms of human services costs for Morrison County, with about $63 million being healthcare costs. But when you think about nursing home stay and the amount of staff required to maintain that level of care for those individuals, and just we don't control that cost. It's all negotiated by the state, and it's been a very expensive cost. And as you'll see, we continue to get older. As we've said, the baby boomers are there. So, but if you look at somebody in their own apartment, I don't know you'd find many people who are going to pay $7,200 for an apartment, even if that's very high cost.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, Brad to follow, and Cindy to follow that up with, when I was talking about the financial picture before, and you said, well, it depends if your spouse is alive. Mm-hmm. That means that if I had this fortune in the bank somewhere, most of that fortune, or a portion of that fortune, has to be paid down towards this medical
That's
long-term care
correct.
first,
Correct.
before the government, if you will, is going to pay any of it.
That's exactly right. We call it, we let them know that they need to reduce assets
Okay.
in order to be eligible. So generally speaking, if whatever they're over, they will pay towards medical costs. But there are things that they can, purchase
Yeah.
if they need, a lift chair, a TV, things like that for their room. And then they need to get down to that $3,000 threshold.
Commissioner Wilson?
Brad, you kind of answered part of my question, because I always bring it up when we're talking about this. But, on the business aspect of this $93 million that comes to the county every year that we pay for these people, most of that comes from the federal and state government. Our taxpayers are paying about $3.7 million of that $93 million that comes here. So when I look at our area and peers and I see the nursing homes and all the elderly care, we would be in tough shape without this money. And you know, when people talk assistance, this is a big figure, but it goes mostly to our elderly people, which is good. I'm glad we have that, and I'm glad that it comes in because it helps our whole county out. So,
And when you talk about, you talk about how can clients afford this, or when does the government assistance kick in? Cindy's staff has to do a lot of work to determine assets, income when it comes to long-term care, because if you think about what people do throughout their lifetime as far as putting away IRAs or bank accounts or land, her staff has to work pretty hard at figuring out how many assets they have, what they have to get it down to. So for anybody looking at long-term care services, it can take a while before you are approved for long-term care services. And so it's a lot of work as people age to figure out what benefits they're available for.
Mr. Chair, back to Jeff's question a little bit. When you're talking husband and wife, let's say you have $1 million. Does your wife get 500,000 of that? And
No.
then, okay, then Jeff's 500,000, you'd start paying it out of or not?
What we can set aside protected assets for the spouse is currently, and I'm close to the figure,
Yep.
$204,000.
Okay, 204,000.
The rest would be applied to medical care or whatever they did with it up until he goes into the nursing home. If it wasn't to gain medical assistance, those transfers would be fine. But if he gives away money to children, or I say he,
Yeah.
Go
the,
ahead, you can use me, that's fine.
then those that we would look at it and call an uncompensated transfer, and then they would serve a penalty period. So we'd take whatever it was that they gave away or sold for a lesser value, we would take that figure and divide it by how many months that could have paid for care, and then we won't start paying until that is exhausted.
Sounds good, thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Looks like that's it, huh?
That's it.
All right.
You did give some population statistics as well in your packet about how we're aging.
Yep.
10,000 per day
But we don't
across
wanna
the
talk
nation.
about us aging.
No, Mr. Chair, I got a question on that. I sit on a lot of boards and we're looking at this baby boomer thing. And so you got to develop business and everything to take care of them. But when that's over with, that scale goes down pretty fast. So how do we kind of accommodate for that? I mean, you've got to build all these facilities and all this stuff to take care of this group, but then the next group goes way down. So what that tells me is then we have a lot of buildings and businesses that'll be sitting empty to relate to that. Do you think of that at all, or is there any, doesn't fit in the picture, or what?
I think we have been more focused on the baby boomers and the services they need right now because just the growth of that population. I think it is something that providers and government will have to think about as we have less people aging, getting younger, whatever the case might be. So, but I do think it is, it's kind of that ebb and flow of what we have available, so.
Okay, thank you.
And for us as Morrison County, those aren't things we would look at, as far as the building and so
Yeah.
on. We would have no control over that, but you're absolutely right. We are going to need more facilities for the elderly. Our population for the baby boomers doubles from 2010 to 2030, so in a 20-year span, that's a huge, huge increase. And as far as employment, I mean, we most likely will need extra staff somewhere down the road, and I would guess through attrition is how we would let those staff.
But Mr. Chair, isn't it true, Cindy, that right now that you might be able to have a facility, you might be able to have 2 or 3 facilities, I'm not suggesting that we have, but we can't staff those facilities because we don't have the staff. And I don't mean we, the
Right.
world does not have the staff to staff those facilities,
You're right.
which are in need because we have more people that need to go to them, but there's nobody there to take care of you when you get there anyway. And I don't mean that, I'm speaking very, very broadly as I say that.
Well, and we are kind of on the flip side, because right now, the level of services needed to take care of the current population isn't there. So I don't know how much extra infrastructure is gonna be in place when the elderly population isn't at such a high percentage of our population. So, so that's that's the challenge now, is that managing and being available for all of these individuals who are aging.
And money.
And money, yes, yep.
All right, Cindy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy.
Moving on, Brad, to public health.
Yep, I have
Thanks, Cindy.
an RBA for a 3-2 liquor license for Gutwald's Corner.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So move.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a motion second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And then I have a food, beverage, and lodging new owner license for Lakeside Property Group.
I need a motion and a second. I have a motion, I need a second.
Second?
I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I have a little discussion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious. I can remember when Jeff was in, this is the old 37 acres establishment. I thought that was gonna be like an apartment building.
That I'm not aware of.
Yeah,
They were campgrounds and stuff there. if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken.
I concur with you, Commissioner Jelinski. I thought
Facility.
the facility there was either going to be demolished, removed, or changed in such a way that it would be apartments or housing and not a eating or drinking establishment. So I'm kind of baffled by this myself.
I can certainly go back and follow up. I was not aware there was a separate set of plans for this establishment.
The establishment, as far as I know, was kind of a dance hall before, or whatever you want to call it, 3-2 joint, I don't care. But those days were done.
I'm curious, I kind of wish our land services director was here now and see if how much awareness there was.
So if I may, Brad, when is this license due? Like,
Well, they paid for the license. I don't know when their anticipated opening date is, because they
Okay.
can't open until they have the license, so.
So if we would table this, it would take a couple of weeks because we'd have to bring it
Yeah,
back.
we'd bring it back July 9th.
Would that be enough time, I wonder? I mean, if that's what you guys want to do?
I would say maybe Amy could come down and,
I'm
yeah, I know
on
you
that
are.
right now.
How about let's move forward? Let's
I have.
table it just for this minute and then maybe we can bring it back, okay?
I do have one other RBA in front of you that is paper. We had one that came in yesterday, and they are,
For River City Pizza,
yep,
correct?
Yep, for River City Pizza, they are trying to reopen, and they are looking for a limited food license, and bar service.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll move on that.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the River City Pizza? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I'd suggest we just go through the meeting, and if I get an answer here, we'll be able to answer that, and then I can address that at the end.
Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, maybe I'd go up to planning and zoning and bring Mary along, and we'd have a conversation, then we can come
That
back
would
down.
work, and then I can put
Okay.
you right back on.
Okay,
Thank
all
you,
right,
Brad.
Thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate that a lot.
And I see we have extension report.
And Samantha is here.
I am.
And if you again may state your name for the record, please.
All right. My name is Samantha Barron. I'm the SNAP educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, and I'll be giving the program update today.
Good morning.
Good morning, Samantha.
Samantha.
This is a little different for me.
It takes getting used to.
You're doing
for all of
fine.
us.
Us too.
Yeah.
All right. Does look really good down here, though. All right, so I'm just going to give a quick update on the One Vegetable, One Community project first. So this is our second year of that project. In the month of May, we had planting days. We did partnership with the high school horticultural class, and that was with Beth Berlin. She was the old, I forget her title with Extension, but she used to work for Extension, and now she works for the high school. So her high school class went and did planting with a lot of the third grade classrooms throughout Little Falls, Randall, and I think she did Lincoln, Lindbergh, and SG Knight, or Dr. SG Knight.
Yep.
And through that, she was able to reach 298 students for planting days and giving out seed packets. I forgot to mention our vegetable of the year this year is sugar snap peas. In addition to that, I was able to do planting days of Swanville. I reached 28 students at the third grade classroom there. And I did planting days with the Head Start classroom in Little Falls here and reached 55 youth there as well. So that brought us a total of 381 youth that we did planting days with, in addition to giving out about 686 seed packets throughout Morrison County. Some of the distribution sites that were really popular were the social services in this building, the library across the street, I believe, I forget where else, and Piers. I think there was one location in Piers, I'm just blanking on the name. So far we're doing really well with that project. I'm actually really thrilled we got a lot more support with that project this year from a lot of the local businesses, hardware stores, Coburn's, Fleet Supply were able to donate soil, potting containers, seeds, and things like that for our planting days with all the kids. So we had a lot more support with that project, and I'm really thrilled about that, and hopefully this continues on as a positive trend for next year. Little Falls School District is actually offering a summer meal program this summer. That started last week. I am partnering with that program. We're doing some education, so I'm going once a week to the locations. They're offering lunch at the middle school, Lincoln, and Randall, because those are the sites that they deem to be the most need in the area. And I'm doing a little sort of mini education lesson with this program to encourage them, healthy eating, making those healthy choices. So that kicked off last week, and we'll go through the first week of August. What else?
Mr. Chair, Samantha, if I may interrupt.
Absolutely.
The lunch program, and I'm kind of familiar with it. The lunch program here in Little Falls.
Yeah.
And it's not just Little Falls, it's many different areas have got the same thing. This is through, I'm to assume, federal government, a grant. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that you do you?
To my understanding, it works very similar to the school lunch program. So they have to meet school lunch standards for, offering a fruit, a vegetable, milk, and whole grain with their lunch that they serve. Since this is the first year that they've done it, they're also serving, they create the meals to go out to Head Start and to Falls Meadow Ridge. I just wasn't able to partner with either of those this summer. Maybe we'll be able to expand next summer, but with this being the first summer, we're starting small.
Okay.
But yeah, I think so far with this first summer, they're doing a lot of simple things like sandwiches. I think last week they had mini bags of carrots, cartons of milk, and a piece of fruit. But yeah, they do still have to meet school lunch standards so they can get reimbursed for those meals.
But with that in mind, anyone is eligible.
Yep, this is free to kids, anyone under 18. So you don't have to be low income. They're just targeting serving in those low income areas because those are where they see the most need. But anybody under the age of 18 can come for free. If parents want to come with their kids, I believe they just have to pay $2, maybe $3 for the cost of the lunch.
Okay, so that when the kids come there, they're not coming there with a slip that says, because of family income, I qualify for.
Nope.
They just simply come and can eat whenever they want to, noontime.
Exactly. I think it's 11 to 12:30 at Lincoln, Dr. S.G. Knight, and the middle school. And they're doing some also free activities and programming afterwards. So if they want to hang out, they can stay for that. One of them being my program.
Yep.
Then, last week was the first week, and from what I saw when I was there, kids would either walk in or ride up on their bikes, kind of walk through the sort of mini lunch line, and they had tables that they had set up temporarily. Some of them even took their lunch outside because it was nice out and had a mini picnic outside.
Do you know or have a guess what the numbers are?
With last week being the first week, they were pretty slow. I think Lincoln had about roughly average 25, 30
Okay.
kids. Randall, I think 9 or 10.
Okay,
I'm
Okay.
gonna I go to Randall today after this, so I was gonna ask to see if their numbers are increasing, seeing that this is the second week.
okay.
So,
Very good, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I could, the U.S. Department of Ag typically is who funds those programs like our SNAP and free and reduced
Yep.
lunch. I think it may flow through the state Department of Education, but it's funded typically by that.
Thank you,
My guess is it's that.
thank you.
all right. I'm excited to announce that the Morrison County Food Shelf got a grant through the university to do the Super Shelf project. So the way this project is going to work is local consultant, which would be me on this project, would help the Super Shelf or the food shelf transform into a Super Shelf, making it a more client-friendly and client-centered environment. You know, providing those healthier options, and then also looking at their ordering practices and assist them in making healthier purchases while staying within their budget or maybe even decreasing their spending budget. We actually did a food sourcing analysis a couple weeks ago with Food Shelf and noticed that since the new director has taken over, she has made a few changes to our already stock healthier choices and reduce their budget, but we were able to give her a few more suggestions to ideally, again, increase her healthier foods and then lower her costs as well. So that's part of the transformation, and then towards the end, there'll be an actual physical transformation that will sort of help change the layout to promote those healthier choices that we have made within the food shelf. So it'll be one of the big projects that I'm working on this summer, and we hope to have it done by the end of August. So, and I'm looking at maybe doing an open house and showing it off to the public, so look for an invite for that.
Excellent.
All right, good information. Any comments or questions for Samantha? Anything else, Samantha?
I think that's all I basically have for updates.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Any questions for me?
Otherwise, we're good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good information. Come on up, Brad. Thank you. We're gonna review the Lakeside property license for beverage for,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. First off, my mistake, I shouldn't have said food and beverage before the lodging part, so, but I did clarify with Amy that they are just going to be apartments on the lake, so it's just for a lodging license.
Oh, okay, that makes
Oh,
sense.
thank you,
So,
thank you.
But it's under our whole food, beverage, and lodging program, so that's probably where that came
my
from.
mistake, I should have seen alcohol or food in front of it. It was not there, it should just be lodging. But I did clarify with Amy that all the permits are in order, given where the property is located, so.
all right, thanks for that clarification. Gentlemen, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried for the Lakeside Property Group
Thank you.
license.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you, Brad, for
information.
checking on that.
Auditors report, Chelsea. We'll have to
Morning,
make a
Chelsea.
habit of this, but we're gonna have to
Good morning.
give your name and everything for the record, please.
Yes, good morning, Chelsea Robinson, Morrison County Auditor Treasurer. This morning, I have a couple things on the agenda, and the first request for board action would be the approval to purchase 75 pole pad units from No Inc. Innovative Election Solutions to utilize in the upcoming elections.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second for more discussion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
On the motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? If I may, this was something that we went over quite thoroughly. You gave
Yes.
us good information, you and Joyce did. And again, that's just something that's the modern technology moving closer to the age of elections.
Mr.
Chair, and the money that this cost you have in your budget already and saved up for this project.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Zelinski.
conversed with a individual earlier this morning who probably is against this, but I don't know that he was clear necessarily as to what we were talking about. And the assumption was that this is what was going to be used to vote on. That these electronic devices, if you will, were going to be used to vote. And I hope that I was straight and understanding as to what it was. This is registration, if that's the right word. It is not to vote. When today, when we in Morrison County go behind the curtain, if you will, we still have a paper ballot and a pencil or an ink pen. And I'm sorry, folks, because I can't remember if it's ink or if it's pencil, but that we take along with us behind the booth. These electronic devices that we're talking about are not. I just wonder if you can clarify that just a little bit more for us today.
Yes, good question. So this, the poll pad units replaces the paper roster for registration when you walk into your polling place. So this is, you're not voting on it, you're just registering to vote. Again, it's eliminating the paper roster that you're signing at the beginning when you walk in, you're still gonna check in to vote, you're still going to receive your paper ballot, you're still gonna go behind the curtain, and you're still gonna fill in with a black pen. And then insert your ballot into the machine, just like normal. This is just replacing the paper roster.
And Mr. Chair, I was able to speak with Joyce a little bit after the presentation last week, and she had explained that every registration or every person that comes in signs that paper roster, and then you, either Joyce or somebody on staff is going to have to either scan a barcode and upload that into the state system, or key the numerous digit code that was there. And so the ability to be able to have that automatically connect and download is substantial in cost savings and time savings for the county. Time savings, which equates to better results and better less room for error, because human
Yes.
error for keying and stuff. So it is technology that's being deployed, but I also think it's going to help in terms of the overall timing of the election and staff involvement with it. So.
And again, Chelsea, too, you're gonna still need proof of identification when you come in, if you're a new registered voter and that sort. So
That's
again, it
correct.
just moves everything along, makes it more efficient.
More accurate, more efficient, time management, all of the above.
All righty.
Mr. Chair, Chelsea, there's 87 counties in Minnesota, and many, many different polling places in Minnesota. Can you give me an idea as to, and I don't think we talked about this during planning, and if we did, I forgot, how many places have or are using electronic registration?
I don't have the number off the top for radar, but in our grant money that we receive from the state, it is broken out. Portion is for electronic rosters, poll pads, and then the other part is on election equipment. So if the county wants to approve using the poll pads or the the county board has the ability to approve utilizing the money and purchasing the poll pads. Otherwise, they're sending their money back to the state.
Okay. And
So-
just one other thing, if you can just touch on it just a little bit, is the security. Electronic devices, call them whatever we want to, iPads, whatever they are, on the security of elections
Yes.
using these devices.
They have to go through the steps with the state in order to be, I don't know.
Eligible vendor.
Eligible
able
to
to-
even be an option for us. And I know you have asked counties, what counties are using these poll pads, so I know our neighboring counties have already implemented the poll pads, and more are purchasing. Just with the conversations that I've had at conference with other auditor treasurers, that this is something is definitely, they're gonna spend their money, they're gonna receive this, it's gonna save time, accuracy, and maybe a little bit easier on the judges, the election judges.
And again, Chelsea, this has nothing to do with the internet.
No.
I mean, it's not hooked in, so if you're at a township, they don't need the internet act. This is just something for registration.
That is correct.
Commissioner Lemire?
And did we do a trial run last election?
We did, yep. So in the planning session, when we were talking earlier, in the township election, we had 4 locations trial them, and we got good responses back. And, it is a new thing, that there's gonna be questions or maybe a little hesitation because it's new and it's, electronics, sometimes they're scary.
So Chelsea, what happens if I'm a township and I don't want to use this?
Sure. Hopefully, that's not the case, and we do well training, because we will roll it out that everybody is involved, but they will have the paper backup in
And I
case
shouldn't just say-
something, what if, the iPad is not charged, or what if something isn't loaded? We're gonna have backup, we're gonna have the paper backup. Hopefully, that wouldn't be the case. We hope to not have that, because we're putting this in place to eliminate some time on the back end and the accuracy for the polling places, so.
All right. Gentlemen, this will be a roll call, since we're gonna be spending a little money here. So we have a motion and a second. So Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Next, I have a request for approval to approve an exempt permit for Bethany Lutheran Church of Ramey to hold a bingo on July 14th at the church grounds.
Need a motion, a second,
I'll
gentlemen.
make that motion.
Second.
I got a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next on the agenda, we have the cash report. So this is just the cash on hand that we present monthly to you from the auditor's office, auditor treasurer's office. And I know some of you have questioned in previous months, is there differences? And in this report, you'll see a different line item. Same line item, but different number for South Country Health Alliance because we made that payment last month. So you'll see the increase on the payment, and then that came out of the revenue and social services line item. So you'll see that difference. Just want to point it out because this is a lot of information.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, let's make a motion to pay the bills, all of them.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
This is gonna be a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I have Denise here.
Come on up, Denise.
You weren't expecting to come up here today.
And Denise,
She told
please
me after
state
the
your
boards.
name and for the record, please.
Hi, it's Denise Vogel, and I'm the DMV supervisor.
Good morning.
What do you have for us,
Morning.
Denise?
So today, we are here with exciting information. Last Wednesday, we received a packet certified to us from the state. So here we are today. We're requesting board approval for the grant agreement and the liability release, along with the resolution that we have attached to receive our deputy registrar reimbursement grant in the amount of $92,344.69.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion, a second for more discussion.
So moved.
I have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Mr. Chair, we should just if you don't mind, explain the reimbursement.
Yes.
Or what's the grant used for?
Well, actually, the grant is not specified in there what it's used for at this time. So we haven't heard of any details on that yet, or where that money exactly will be going, or how it will be used. However, this is the compensation from MinMars, the system that the state started back on July 24th of 2017, which was implemented with several issues to the system. And basically, we went through legislation to get compensation to help pay for, there was deputies that were having to dig into the, taxpayer dollars or their own funds as far as private deputies, just to pay for the overtime and the things that came up from this system being so badly rolled out.
Chelsea, Cindy, the Minlars is basically scratched, I'm assuming, correct?
It will be. We still have probably about a year and a half before they'll have a new system implemented. In fact, we haven't even heard who's doing that yet, what the vendor's name is that's taking that over.
And again, just for my own personal satisfaction, they spent, close to $100 million on something that didn't work, right?
Yeah, over 100 million.
Nice, nice.
Well, it works with lots of loopholes and glitches and time.
But again, if
and-
they're scratching it, obviously it doesn't work, then they're gonna try
Yes.
something else,
Yeah.
so.
So I'm understanding this $92,000 to be kind of a payback of, it's cost Morrison County, obviously, we've done overtime, we've had the conversation over and over and over with the motor vehicle staff department, Denise, you've been here. Whether or not this fulfills everything that has been spent, which I highly doubt that it does, but it's something which is better than nothing at all.
Exactly.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there, again, you said it's not, Chelsea, maybe you can answer this, or Deb, or this 92,000 doesn't state what we can use it. Can we use it for salaries? Can we use it for, I don't know, what can we use it for?
That's the issue. It doesn't state what we can use it for, so we're
The-
gonna learn more about that and we'll
Yeah.
find out what that is. Hopefully flexibility is offered for that. There was a lot of debate down at the state legislature this year about this whole process, this whole system, what to do moving forward with fees and there's been some success there, and I hope soon we'll talk about that and what that means to the county. This was in arrears. This was what's been spent. It kind of shows you how that was divided, how that lump sum, and I can't remember the total. Was it like 12 million or
No,
something
it
like
was
that?
13 million.
13 million. Okay, it was close to that.
Throughout the 87 counties?
For the 87 counties, and it was split up based upon the 10% equally, 45 based upon number of transactions, and then 45 based upon the transaction compared to the total
And
of
the
that.
87 counties might be counties only, but it's 174 deputy registrars throughout the state that got a cut of that 13 million.
Good point. Very good clarification. So we'll see.
And so this money, we just gonna put it in the general fund, wait till they tell us what we can use it for? Or is it gonna be next week? Is it gonna be next year? Do we have any idea?
The way that Denise and I are looking at this is like back pay compensation for deputy registrar offices. So I don't think, we haven't heard of a designated way of how we have to spend these dollars. I think it's just coming back from the last 2 years and the struggles that we've been through and we are still dealing with working in the MNLARS system. It's not easy.
So you're saying that they're not gonna probably tell us how to spend it?
Right now, we haven't gotten any justification on that or
There
guidance on that.
hasn't been any talk.
And aside from being directly specified, typically that's then your judgment call as a board in terms of how to apply those dollars.
Well, and we've asked the legislators time and time again to do something with MNLARS, not just 2019, but in the past, and have told them, or asked them, told and asked, conversed with them, saying that it's costing the county additional funds, and where's that money coming from? And there's been a lot of this, I don't know, and there's been a lot of, well, we'll see what we can do. To me, this $92,000 is, we're doing something about it. Again, whether or not that 92,000 is gonna cover everything that has happened since the beginning of MNLARS, I'm not going there because I highly doubt that it is. It's better than a kick in the head.
Well, and I want to say that I think some of that monies too was based off of, we couldn't help our customers. We weren't able to give them what they needed when they came in because the system was not functioning the way it was. So it's also the monies that we didn't take in as a office, as part of our compensation. We didn't get that money from the customers. The state had us give 60-day temporaries to fulfill the customer's needs at the time. And so that's part of it too.
Commissioner Blaine?
Mr. Chair, I just, I'm happy that the state has finally come through with some relief. As Commissioner Jelinski says, I don't believe that $92,000 is somehow going to make Denise and Chelsea's office there whole again with the amount of time and effort that has been spent. But I guess the point that I would make is that along with the intense amount of work that they've had to do with this debacle called MNLARS, their work on the side in pleading their case consistently to the legislature and to the state of Minnesota that that MNLARS was a train wreck and something had to be done, I think shouldn't go unnoticed too. And that though these two individuals, along with individuals who've had to deal with this mess across the state, has finally forced the state to capitulate some revenue back to as a relief to them, and I'm not going to sit here right now and tell them how this should be spent or not spent, and we can have those discussions going forward. But I'll say that this is one maybe slight ray of hope or ray of sunlight into what has been a dark abyss created with MNLARS. And I'll just hope the heck that whoever's selected to create the replacement for this is far removed from those individuals who are responsible for this current mess.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Moving along, administration's report.
All right, first of all, thank you for participating this morning, and thank you for this beautiful facility. I know that the decisions that have been made to this point haven't been easy, but I think we're starting to see the fruits of that labor and those decisions, and as it all plays out, and I am appreciative of that, and pleased at the facility that we have that allows us to do our business and allows us to do it well, keeping in mind some of those important things that we need to keep in mind, like technology and security and access and better customer service and all that. So it's been a fun road thus far, and I'm anxious to see the rest of it also and work with it. So thank you, gentlemen, for that.
And Deb, again, I want to thank you for what you and again your staff did just to get this together. I know it's not easy sometimes, so you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been good. A board action item that I have is to set a public hearing date for the Lake Chaminade Lake Improvement District Order of Establishment revision. This is a topic we've been talking about for a very long time and continue to talk about. This is that Order of Establishment, that kind of governing document, if you will, for the Lake Improvement District. Lake Chaminade has requested, and we've, through discussion, learned that we need to make some updates to that order of establishment to allow them to continue operating or advancing a project, but also to address some issues we've heard from their membership regarding their operation and the communication that goes out and different components of that. And so last time we spoke, we did have a date in mind of Thursday,
The
July
18th you're talking,
18th. Yep, at 6:30 up at that the Lincoln Evangelical Free Church. It's where they've done their larger meetings. We've, I think, all been to, or at least at some point in time have been to. So 6:30, July 18th. There are specific notification requirements that we have regarding entities that we have to notify and allow them the opportunity to comment. We will be working through the different groups up there. There are a few different ones that I'll have and them distribute that communication to get the word out. And it's been posted then also in our paper for that.
I think we had this on our schedules temporarily. Now it's official.
Today, this resolution would officially start that process, yes.
So we'll ask for a motion and a second for this resolution for Lake Chaminade meeting up in Scandi on the 18th of July at 6:30.
So moved, Mr.
I
Chair.
have a motion. I need a second.
Second?
I got a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And as you know, and I've been kind of keeping you updated, I continue to get feedback from numerous people up there. There's a group that's looking to terminate the lid. If that petition comes in, I'm certainly gonna let you know, because that prompts then action on your part too as a board. And so there's a lot going on up there. There certainly are different opinions. We're trying in the county, trying to serve both points of view, I guess would be the best way to put it. And so there's a lot going on and a lot of folks up there that have questions or have different ideas. And so we're fielding those calls and questions as they come in.
All right, good information, Deb, thanks.
We have Mike coming in. He's on his way to give a building update. But as you know, we're going to be throughout the summer now. We've talked a little bit about, we have insurance renewals coming up. We have the budget process starting again for 2020. We have a number of different bargaining units that are going to start negotiations for a new contract come 2020. So there'll be a lot going on this summer. And of course, the construction happening adds to that too, but it keeps us busy and on our toes. So more to come on all those different types of topics as we work through this.
Anything else for Deb for a discussion or anything at this time?
Other than Mike is here.
All right, Mike,
and gonna
please
join
come on up.
us. Yeah.
State your name for the record.
Hi, Mike. Long time no see.
Yes.
We can pass them down the way. Thanks. I think so.
That's not thunder.
It's white noise. Or something.
Snoop.
Morning, Mike.
Good morning. I just handed out the,
Again,
oh, I'm sorry,
yes,
excuse me.
yep.
Michael Philippi, Integrity Group,
There we go.
sorry. I just handed out the revised budget, updated budget, so,
And we've made some changes, Pete and Mike and I and Steve Messerschmidt, we've all been talking about trying to reflect a bit differently what's been going on. Previously, if there were any change orders that came in, all of those have been discussed and approved by you, but we ran them through the contingency. And so we really wanted to break that out for some of the outside of the original scope type of questions that we had. And so those are reflected down at the bottom. The contingency is reflective of what we would consider normal construction contingency items. And another thing that was removed was the parking lot that was constructed on the west side of the complex. That was funded from fund balance and not the project that was prior to that starting. And so that was kind of reflected in overall cost, but now that's removed from that because we had funded it outside of the project.
Correct.
So there are a few changes with
Mike,
that.
what do you have for us? Anything of, sticks out for you?
no, nothing that sticks out. You know, for our construction contingency for what we have left, I mean, we feel comfortable for what's in there, so. I do know on the next phase, there's gonna be some 4-inch cast, that John wants to replace upstairs. It's kind of the same situation we had down here where some of it was cracked and it smells, at times with the sewer gas, so I do know that, so.
So we began demoing upstairs. We were removing all the furniture and leftover items as people vacated the east main level. And so the drilling started yesterday again, I noticed a
Yeah,
little
we
bit,
did start the
so.
demo yesterday. As far as the budget goes, yeah, that was all I had on it for that.
And Mike, moving forward for the people here, that, okay, what's the next project and where do we end or where do we
We're gonna do,
continue?
phase 3 is next, and that's basically the entire floor above us.
Which would consist of,
The old social services area, and also some work in the bathrooms at the main lobby to make them code compliant with handicap accessibility, so.
and once social services is done, then where?
Then we're going to the 1960s building, and we're doing some remodel in the lower level. It's approximately 3,000 square feet of remodel, so it's not everything over there that we're gonna do. And then once we're there, done with that, we'll go to the sheriff's office.
And what
so.
are we doing over at the old building? What's that gonna
Basically,
be for?
the lower level of the 60s building, basically the lower level, it's when you walk into the main entrance on the lower level, we're gonna open that all up. And then we're gonna remodel, like I said, it's about 3,000 square feet. I think the building itself, the footprint's around 5. So we're gonna leave some of the existing offices and then motor vehicle go over there and there's like a classroom. And then it'll be open concept though through furniture where the public will come up to that. And this summer, we will be taking the glass link off though, off the outside, so.
I like that called, a nice way to put it, glass link.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question. Mike, the 4-inch cast that you spoke of earlier,
Yep,
we're talking sewer pipe, I think,
that's correct.
and that's really not a want. We found it, it's cracked, it stinks, it's sewer gas, we need to get that fixed, right?
Absolutely. And as long as the ceilings are open, it's similar to
Exactly.
what we did down here. The ceilings were open.
Yeah.
The pipe was not in good shape. They had it cameraed. It would not have made sense to leave it there and then replace it in a year from now. So
Thank
it's
you.
the same thing for upstairs.
And so then, Mike,
Yes.
so once social services done, then we have public, the old building where public health is, that'll be the DMV?
Yes.
And then the DMV, where it is now,
We'll move to
consists of what?
Yes, we'll move to the lower level of the 60s building, and then the DMV area will turn into additional sheriff's office space, is what that'll be. There's some interview rooms, deputy area, task force and such in that area, so.
All right.
Mr. Chair, if I could just touch on those pipes, those are the ones that we experienced numerous problems just this past winter with them. The erosion that happened and the sediment that was in there ended up causing them to be
Yeah, it's just
blocked, and
cast pipe
it
that-
didn't go well
they're
for a
30-some
number
years
of
old.
times. But
And
one
I
thing,
I shouldn't say he wants to replace them, they need to be
They need to be
replaced.
Yes,
That's-
yeah, exactly. We're finding those issues in a building that's aging, and so it's nice that we have the opportunity to really update it and set the stage for numerous decades.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Blaine?
So, Mr. Chair and Mike, so the work in the 60s building would be Phase 4, and the expansion of the sheriff's footprint into what is now motor vehicle would be Phase 5, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wilson?
You know, when we go original contract, we've got 12 million, at the bottom here, we got 12,487,000. Just help me if I'm mistaken here. That's the money that we levied to do the project to begin with. When the bids came in, it was around 10 million something, correct? And then we decided to take that other money and do other projects like this sewer pipes and things that we needed to do yet.
And that's not all identified and may not be all identified, but we have here is the total of that 12.4 is the total bond issue.
That was the bond.
And then you see that last line, the bond proceed amount, that 2.4, right above that. That's the extra from that, above and beyond that $10 million project scope. All of that would be items that you've either already approved and we've talked about, like the jail camera system that we talked about in terms of the reason for that and why it makes sense to go ahead. And that may or may not be items or consist of items that you address in the years to come as we
And
work on the
again, that's a
project.
good point, Commissioner Wilson, is that it give any money left over, it kind of becomes a little technical because of Steve Messer says, we just can't give it back to the tax holders. We can't just do things with it. There's a state, if you kind of give it a short version.
Yep. There were items, if you remember, when we go back a number of years, and it was kind of fun talking about some of that, 4 or 5 years ago when we started just really even conceptually talking about this project. We knew we had a threshold in terms of dollars to spend because it was very clear, the board at the time said, we will not increase that levy impact. So the bond issue needed to be within the confines of where our current debt payment was that was coming off of the books. And so there were a number of items that we were going to address within that larger scope, but knew we had to scale back. And so the discussion item will come to whether or not you want to do some of those or whether we're finding we don't need to. But those are decisions within the next couple of years as this project continues that you'll be tasked to make.
I think the thing that surprised us was, and Randy kind of mentioned that we thought we could maybe give the taxpayers back their money. We'd have to help me if I'm wrong here, but we would have to refinance, and that cost would cost us more than what we're giving back to refinance the project. So that's why we'll do the projects that we need to do that would have been coming up in the next few years. But I do want to just state that this project came in at 10 million, came in about 2-point-some millions under what we thought it would.
That's correct.
So that kind of tells you where all this money's at.
Yeah, and that you don't know for sure, but we knew that the estimates were such that we needed to scale back because we for sure wanted to protect against the fact that we didn't want to increase that levy at the time.
And I bet on today's day and age, if we'd have did this now, it probably would have went over our budget that we
Well,
had.
the time of year makes a big difference of when you bid it in the right market. There's a lot of people out there now, but
Yeah.
people are busy.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Commissioner Blaine?
we're talking a lot about what the original bond was and what the original bid cost was of the project, but I guess for the public's sake or for the public's information, so we're basically finished the second phase of this, walking into the third phase. So Mike, I think what the public would like to know is where are we as far as being on budget or under budget after the completion of phase 2 of this 5-phase project?
Well, as far as the project itself, not including, the jail camera stuff, and I understand that was separate, but, we still show a balance of $208,000 in the contingency fund. And for the amount of dollars that we've spent so far up to this point, because that also includes mechanical rooms and electrical rooms and stuff like that, that isn't directly in this phase. We've already put the air handlers in for phase 5 and that sort, with the $208,000 in contingency, for what we've ran into up to this point. I mean, I feel fine with that, so.
It's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Mike, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else from Mike and old gentleman? Thank you, Mike, appreciate it. All right,
Thanks, Mike.
have a good week. Okay, moving on. Oh, committee reports. I gotta look at my thing here. Who did I start with last time? And let's do this one this time here.
What dates are we going to?
Yeah,
So we have, because of the holiday, we're gonna go out 3 weeks. So June 23rd, all the way through July 13th.
all right. Let's start with Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, on the 24th, I got community development at 12:15 and planning commission at 7. On the 25th, there's a thing at Sprout. Let me see what it is here.
What time of day?
3 to 5, Thriving Designs,
Thrive by Design.
yeah. And then there's a planning session at 8:30 in the morning. I gotta get rid of this one. Okay, I have July 2nd, I've got Board of Adjustment at 7. And we're going to, where are we going to, Amy? Or,
July 13th.
okay. Public Works Planning on the 8th. And I've got a township meeting in Richardson Township,
On the 8th?
yep, at 7 o'clock. On the 9th, I got Fit Camp at 1 o'clock. I think that's that fitness camp over at the park. A Trails meeting. County Board meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning.
When is the trails?
1 o'clock, I think.
Just a minute here.
1 o'clock,
Yep, 1 o'clock.
Pine Grove Park.
That's really not a trails meeting.
We're gonna race. The fit
We
trail,
are
that one.
going to race.
Not a
See how it
trails
goes.
meeting,
It's a fit trail.
It's the grand opening for that fit trail that Morrison County participated.
Yep.
Public health did.
Okay, there's a department head meeting on the 10th at 8:30.
It's the management retreat meeting that we have.
Okay, till the 12th, that's it then for me.
If I may, Deb, where's the management retreat gonna
It
be
will
at?
be over at the Initiative Foundation. And
That's-
kind of an all-day
That's at 8
event.
o'clock, right?
8:30, right?
8:30, actually 8:30, I believe it starts until probably about 2:30.
Can you kind of just maybe explain that a little bit here, then what is the management retreat? I don't think Commissioner Blaine went last year, he wasn't here, so.
Well, we have different topics. We usually try to spend a day with the leadership of the staff, both, this year, we're going to do a morning, department head discussion regarding classification and compensation systems, and we have a presenter coming in from another organization. And then we also, for the afternoon, the supervisors of the organization will join us for lunch, and then we have a couple of different, presentations. One's a team building exercise that we're gonna have, and participate in, and then the other's going to be some general updates and discussion about, HR overall and staffing, throughout the organization and from a supervisory perspective, so.
And that gets over what time? Usually around 2 or 3, I
Two,
suppose.
2:30 is what, I don't have the details for sure on the agenda. I'm working to send that out soon.
All right. Commissioner Lemare,
25th at 1:30, HRA. And we don't have no meeting on the 2nd then.
No, that week we will not have a meeting.
And the 8th at 5:30 PM, I got my yellow ribbon. And Mike's got all my others.
all right. Commissioner Jelinski,
On the 25th at noon, there's a Towards Zero Death meeting at Public Health. On the 26th at 12 o'clock, Community Health Assessments Needs, that's at St. Gabriel's. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, I've got a phone conference dealing with the Public Safety Communications Conference, that Planning Committee. Going to have a wrap-up of the conference. On the 27th, 12:30 in the afternoon. I've got a State Emergency Communications Board meeting. I'm not exactly positive where it's at. It's in St. Paul, I think, somewhere. I've got the 4th scheduled for a Legislative Conference Committee meeting, but obviously that's not gonna happen. Public Works Planning at 5:30 on the 8th of July. There should be an Extension Committee meeting. I'm anticipating that's in this building somewhere, but I don't know where yet. I also show towards zero death on the 9th of July in public health, and I'm not positive if that's gonna happen or not. 8 o'clock on the 10th of July, I'll be going to Platte Township to the Town Hall along with Land Services. On the 11th at 6 o'clock, got a Trails meeting, and this time the Trails meeting is gonna be at Crane Meadows. And on the 12th, and I'm not positive that I'll be there, there's an Armor Rack meeting in Alexandria at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Thank
Chair,
you.
that's all I've got.
All right, Commissioner Blaine.
Mr. Chair, on June 27th, next Thursday, I have Region 5 at 6 o'clock. And outside of that, I think I have to skip ahead then to, excuse me, July 11th, South Country Health Alliance
At 9?
at 9. I may have a, I'll have to double check, but I may have a, compliance committee meeting at 8 o'clock before that.
Okay.
I'll double check that for you, Tabitha. Other than that, Mr. Chair, that is all I have.
All right. On the 25th, though, I'm not for sure of the time of that one, but, the rest of the commissioners are invited. They're having a session on the solar for the 800 or the 100 megawatts at the Legion in Royalton. I'm not for sure what time that is. I thought it was like 5 in the afternoon, but I'll get that to you, so.
Is that for the proposed 800 acre?
Yeah.
North of,
It's right in the city of, or in Bellevue Township, so that'll be coming on the 20th. It's an informational thing from them, so you guys are invited on that. I'll get you guys the time on
Is that
that.
again, Randy?
The 25th.
And it's just a reminder, it's not the one, the county's not permitting any of that,
No,
but participating.
It's just giving information. It's actually too large where the county really doesn't have any permitting
Yep.
involved.
The
It's
Public
just-
Utilities Commission permits all of that, just so it's not mistaken in that regard, but
Exactly.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may ask, do you know who is giving that
It'll
presentation?
be Geronimo,
Okay.
so.
and that's the company that I think is
Actually, they
proposing
got-
to put it
yeah.
in.
And it's something else, because they kind of got bought out, but I can get that information, but I'll get that to you today before you publish it, so. So anybody can attend throughout the county or whatever, so, we'll see what happens there, because Benton County already, they met with them, because they're also doing a 100 megawatt, probably a mile from this one, but that's in Benton County. So they're doing 2 100 megawatts proposals. And then I have Soil and Water on Thursday at 9 o'clock. And I think they covered me the rest of the way through. Yep, then we should be good to go.
Are we doing Mississippi Headwaters on the 28th?
Yeah, the 28th, yes. I just put that in there. Yeah.
The Morrison Todd Budina Community Health Board on the 10th? Are we doing that July 10th? At 3 o'clock?
You talking to Mike?
Yeah, I think she's talking to me, yes. Would put it down. It could, I think it's gonna be canceled,
Yeah,
but
I think it will be too, but you,
you should put it down.
yeah,
Listed? Okay.
yeah.
That's-
I missed that too.
Are we good, gentlemen?
Otherwise, yeah, I think we
All
are.
right, Deb, anything?
Well, I think it worked, right? for the most part, the room. We don't want us to return it, right?
Spectacular.
'Cause-
Someone said it's great to have a wet bar in the back of our.
Oh, sure, yes, yeah.
Spectators, could you see the screens and everything okay? And
Could you hear us okay? All right. Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, just 1 second. Nobody heard this because I really kept it down to a dog click.
I learned to flip, so that's a good thing. I did ask for coasters because it is getting a little there, so. I don't want to get this all stained, so nice.
I'll just say, the board too does recognize the efforts by Deb and the administration staff on overseeing this. We're here once a week in the building. You guys deal with this on a daily basis. It doesn't go unnoticed by the 5 of us.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience and your efforts and your understanding.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second?
second.
Commissioner Wilson, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. 10:47.